Hello and welcome to the DoneJS contributors meeting. Today is Friday, March 10th, 2017. And today we're joined by David.
Guten Morgen.
Guten Morgen. Joel.
Guten Morgen.
Justin.
Chasing love.
And Kevin.
Hello.
And I'm Chasen. We're going to go through everyone's status for the past week and what we plan on working on the following week. Let's go reverse again. So Kevin, you want to start us off?
Sure. So this week we had a small patch for CAN 2.3, and then primarily have been spent most of the week working on CAN 3.5. We've been fighting with a non-existent version of Firefox and then a bunch of Internet Explorer issues trying to get that out. So hopefully we'll get that wrapped up today. And then I also worked on making it so you can add specific versions of plugins for DoneJS. Hopefully next week we'll be releasing final versions of DoneJS 1.0.
Yeah, crossed our fingers.
I said that last week, so.
Yeah. Justin.
I have been working on training docs for CanJS 3.0, and that's pretty much all I'm going to be working on next week. I did make some releases for, let me actually bring up the forum post again. I forgot. I made releases for, there we go, Can Stash and Can View Scope fixes so that it this works correctly. And I also am working on, I did a weather widget guide for DoneJS Chicago. Once CanJS 3.5 is out, that will be published. And then 2 weeks from now, Brian is actually going to be giving that, that training. So that's it for me.
Cool. Sounds good. Joel, I know you posted in the forums and you've been working on some stuff and you've been contributing more. So you want to give a little introduction and say what you've been working on?
Sorry, I muted you, so you're gonna have to unmute yourself.
Oh yeah.
Hi. Yeah. So I've been following CanJS for a while. Met Justin probably over a year ago at least, and yeah, I was always intrigued by it, especially with like all the new frameworks that are coming out, like Polymer and everything. And I think you guys do a really good job of tying everything together, and so. I'm really interested in just getting as involved as possible and to help you guys make it as good as it can be. And so I have some things that I feel like I have a lot that I have on my mind about things, so I'll try and go as quick as possible here. So I like with the documentation that you're doing, Chasen, I think it's really good and really helpful because I feel like it's really lacking. But
Joel, sorry to cut you off. So we have a whole topics section after we all give status.
Okay.
That's like the
Okay.
time for like
status.
Discussion. Yeah.
I did a pull request on the DoneJS README, a pull request on the documentation for the demo streaming dev server that got accepted by Matthew. And that's about it. And I submitted a proposal to give a talk at Chicago Code Camp, which I've done before. So they haven't finished voting on what talks they're going to accept yet, but I think they were looking for speakers, so it might be possible that I'll be giving a talk there, and the topic would be just going basically over the the DoneJS chat guide. So.
Sweet. It's awesome to have you on board and contributing. And whenever there's anything that's that we can help out with, or I can help out with, for sure, let me know. And we will, go over topics in just a little bit.
Got it.
Cool. Thanks, David.
Yeah, just quick. I started or continued because I started a while ago, adding per test timeouts to the test runner, and also give, if possible, a more useful error message when a timeout happens or the browser doesn't start, because I noticed that people have been struggling with that. So yeah, hopefully I'll be able to wrap that up next week and save people a lot of time debugging, especially CI.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you. And then for me, so last Friday I published the DoneJS community update, and then this week I helped Kevin Dillon out with some FunkUnit and Sim things. Went to JSLA last night, and this week I've been working on scheduling some more meetups for myself and a few other people. And then, excuse me, I had a couple of smaller PRs here and there, some related to kind of documenting my responsibilities and helping Robert get started on our team. So that's been kind of the bigger things this week. Next week, I'm going to be continuing to focus on meetup and conference organizing, and also reaching out to some blogs, some other blogs, and hopefully starting to write and get coverage elsewhere. So that's my status. Anyone have anything before we move on to topics? Nope. Cool. All right, so Matthew was the first person who posted. He is not here, but here, I don't need to share my screen. So his topic was delaying the templating RFP. I think it was like a month and a half ago that we talked about opening up a request for proposals for improving templating within CanJS. We had initially set today as the tentative due date for proposals, but we haven't shipped DoneJS 1.0, so it's not really at the top of our mind right now. So I posted a comment earlier this week just saying that we don't have another due date. We'll probably update the post with another one, but we're focused on DoneJS 1.0 right now. So I don't know if there was anything to discuss, but does anyone have anything that they want to discuss about this?
I do.
Cool.
So Matthew and I talked a little bit about, like publicly in the post, about his work on Weston or whatever, which is very similar to Polymer, which is kind of the way I really like to see templating done, because you're not having to learn a new syntax. You're just using HTML, and I think that's basically necessarily understand what like an RFP would be. So I didn't really submit one, but I feel like that'd be like a big document with like a lot of data and stuff. But I mean, basically, I think just look at what Polymer has, and I don't know if there's many other things like that, but I really do like how they do it. So
yeah, I think our goal for having that RFP open is to have people submit issues, or really submit issues, but forum posts, whatever else would be fine too. To kind of documenting their ideals for what templating CanJS might look like, and then discussing, because there's a few different patterns we could follow, and there's a lot of challenges with regards to how it would actually work, how we would document it, and that sort of thing. So yeah, we're definitely looking for people to explicitly kind of write out their proposal, and then the pros and cons compared to what we have with Stash today, other stuff that's out there. So yeah,
can I throw a question out to Justin?
Sure.
About that real quick? Sure. Okay. So because I know, like, so I guess I have trouble learning Stash and understanding Stash because it's just there's so many options. Does the syntax have to be like using like curly braces and everything in order to get that kind of like high level of like control that you have with Stash, or do you think it would be possible even to do it? Because I know with Polymer, like you can't do like if else, for instance, because it just doesn't. I mean, you could, but they don't want to do it because it doesn't really fit in very well.
Yeah, so that's the problem with purely HTML, is you lose some expressiveness that you get from other delimiters. There's no real, like, in what I would guess is that there'll be really two different types of templating engines that might come out of it. One kind of like what Matthew's proposed and something similar to what actually Kevin's proposed, there's really two different ways of making these things work. I don't know. Maybe we end up doing both. I don't really know. I think, and I guess one comment I wanted to make about the RFP process is like, nobody who's submitting an RFP, and I probably need to repeat this to Matthew too, should like expect that their RFP will not be heavily modified through the through the process of once everybody, like, it's more to like guide. We'll probably pick a direction based on the RFPs, but I'm sure there's going to be a lot of nuance and exploration within any of these directions that we might take. So just making sure that that's out there, that people shouldn't, I guess, expect like, hey, the template should look like this, and then that's like, that might be the form that we take, but there's going to be my guess is there's just so much complexity and need within template design. Or by need, I mean like there's just so many use cases that it's like almost impossible for one person to think them all through. So I would imagine that there's gonna be a lot of discussion as a open source team once we kind of pick a flavor around what the final result of that flavor should look like.
Yeah, it's definitely a discussion starter. Like any of the RFPs are discussion starters, and trying to like collect ideas that are out there for kind of priming our discussion. Not necessarily that we're gonna pick one and say, hey, we're going with this.
Yeah,
so,
even
so
like
Joel, you should definitely submit one, even if you already know that it doesn't have if statements or whatever. So it's probably not the final solution. You should still definitely submit that so we can get those ideas. It's very.
It has
helpful.
if statements.
No, that's not what
has.
you know what I mean. Even if there are downsides that you know of, that's fine. You should still submit it and just say that, and then we'll
I'll submit a very interesting one, which kind of plays off of something I've seen someone else do in PHP, which is basically creating like a syntax that's like CSS, and then that's how you manipulate the DOM through passing data to your so you have like yet another template. So it's just yet another abstraction. But I mean, yeah, I'll submit it and you guys can look at it and either laugh about it or maybe it'll spark an idea. Who knows?
Yeah, that's the thing about the whole process is I know personally over the last month and a half, I've been reading a lot more about how different templating engines work and kind of the design decisions and that sort of thing. So collecting the ideas to be able to spark discussion is, I think, healthy. What we're going after. Okay, anything else before we move on from this topic? Cool. So Joel, you had two things that you wanted to discuss. If you want to share your screen to show the issues, you can do that.
Give me a second to figure that out.
There's
is that under the cog?
There's a green screen share button on the left-hand side. It's the second icon. You can click on that and then select the screen or window or what have you.
All right, can you see that?
I can see myself.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay. Yeah. So mine's mostly around documentation. Like I have a lot of ideas about not a lot of ideas, but kind of like a specific idea about how that could be before I could do like a bunch of work changing all the repositories, because you have that big list of repositories. Like I wanted to talk about it first before doing any work that would have to just be undone.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking this is kind of what I was thinking. I don't know if you can see this very well, but okay, here's a question I have just to start. Do we have a change log? A lot of times when I go to a new project, that really gives me my bearings, is to see where where the project's headed and a couple of releases we're all about. Because I know in some of Matthew's repos there are in the releases there's notes, but then on DoneJS, I think, for example, there is no change log, there's no release notes. Maybe it's being posted elsewhere, but I need to be able to find that information. And I'm just wondering, like, is there a changelog for DoneJS itself, for example?
Yeah, I don't. Oh, go ahead,
We're
Justin.
starting to do it with all of our projects. Is we're using the releases tab as release notes. So it might not be that we're doing it yet on kind of the beta stuff or the alpha stuff for related to DoneJS. You'll notice that like once things get to kind of alpha-ish territory, this is, you know, we're not going to be doing it too much. But then once it becomes like once it's actually released for kind of public consumption, then yeah, we're planning on doing all of our releases in the release notes for every project. And then CanJS itself has like meta release notes, which probably DoneJS will have as well, which is release notes that point mostly to other release notes, like this one, right? This points to the release notes for all of the other projects that were released within that CanJS release.
Okay. And then the only thing I would add is then maybe can we put a changelog in the root of the repo that just is a simple link to the release notes, just so people can quickly and easily understand that that's where they should look for the changelog. That's the only thing I would add to think about. And then for the contributing, I was thinking, you know, it's kind of, if you want to hack on the projects and you kind of already understand what the organization's policy is on, like, you know, behavior and that kind of stuff, like where to find like more information, like on the DoneJS website, for example, it'd be like, usually like when I'm looking at the contributing, I'm not expecting to like have to like scroll past all those links just to get to like how to start hacking on it, because I want to start hacking on it as quickly as possible. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so the reason, and it might be good to share your screen to show exactly what you're talking about. Because there's, you're
sure. This
yeah,
one?
so yeah, that's the one. So an example of where that was pulled from was maybe the DoneJS Firebase repo, where
Chafin, if you're going to be talking a lot, but you want the audience to be able to read what Joel's got, click on him, and then make sure to remember to click off of him when you're done.
Okay.
That way, like the YouTube feed is showing his screen, even though you're talking.
Yeah. I think I've clicked on him to show. I'm not sure if that shows just for me or for the stream. Anyway, so yeah, so what I added was here, I guess I can just share my screen real quick and then it'll be super clear. Okay, so like in DoneJS Firebase, it has a contributing MD. At the very top of it, it has a list of links that shows that links to the DoneJS contributing docs, and then it gets into like the things that are specific for the repository. The reason why I added this was so that if you're going to any of the subprojects, it's really easy to search for any of these topics. And then see that it might just link to the other document. So I thought it was a good way of saying, hey, we have docs for all of this. If you need to figure out like how to fork the repository, then you can still see all of the information that we provide and then the project specific details. So that's kind of the like reason why I think we should add kind of like a little index. I do agree that it's more it's more worth to add this. And then over time, if we change this, if we add things or change the structure, like ideally it would be applied to all the repositories. But to me, that's such like a higher ideal. I feel like this is pretty fleshed out for anything that people are going to want to be able to find quickly from any of the repos.
Is it one thing, like, do you need all the sub-level menus in here? Like, I mean, would it just make it, like, was a nice middle ground is just have those links, but then like it just takes up so much visual space that if you just had like evangelism, updating DoneJS, changing the code, developing locally, and not like all of the sub things, which presumably I don't think people are going to click for most of those directly too, because it'd be weird if you're like, I want to develop locally, but I'm going to go to the 6th step or something. I wonder if that would make it like a little bit more like, okay, this is just like taking you to get these high level information, but you get right to the, if you're like an experienced person with, you know, GitHub and NPM and stuff like that, you can kind of bypass that more easily and get right to like the, you know, git clone npm install stuff.
Yeah, so it would look something like, I'm still screen. Yeah, okay, so it would look something like this instead.
Yeah, I think that might be a little, that's like maybe a more appropriate balance between what you two are looking for.
Yeah. Anyone else have thoughts about this?
That's about basically what I was thinking. The alternative, I had one other alternative. So I was going to suggest either that or like breaking out the how to hack on the project into a hacking.md document, and you could have one of those in every project. So people, once they get familiar with how we do things, or you guys do things, like it'll be like, oh, just go to the hacking.md, and I can just go directly to like how to hack on it. And then in the contributing thing, like say like, oh, are you looking to hack on this project? Just look at the hacking MD and then link to that. I mean, and then, you know, I was thinking that you could make the contributing.md like really slim and just link to like the hacking MD to like the global contributing document, which is under the DoneJS repo, and then a link to like the license file. Because like whatever you're contributing to this project, you need to know like what licenses is it going to be under. That's kind of important. So that was kind of my thought thinking. To just really slim down the contributing MD.
See, and so my perspective is that I want the contributing MD to, I think the contributing MD should have all of the information that you need for contributing to the project. If it feels like it's like from the README, if it feels like it's not clear how to get started, you know, hacking on the code, then I think the README would be an appropriate place to like add more links for like where to find stuff. But my personal opinion is that we should have all of the information in the contributing, because that would match the guides that we have on the websites, where it's just one contribution guide that has everything from you know, setting the project up to working on the code to releasing the packages or the website. All
right. Well, maybe, you know, that's my thought. So I mean, I respectfully disagree, but you know, I think it's just you know, we spent enough time on it, and I think either way it's going to be better than nothing. And you know, I agree with you. It's like pretty much, you know, they're the same thing, just structured differently, and I would just structure it differently is all. But I'll definitely start submitting pull requests the way you want. So.
Well, does anyone else have any feedback on this, or like maybe maybe David with Feathers, you have another perspective on what works well for the Feathers community?
I think David might be gone.
I think we lost David. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Just kidding. Sorry, I wasn't looking at the
shedding.
Yeah. What did you just cough, Justin?
I said that
we're bike shedding.
Borderline entering the world of bike shedding, where like this stuff is, like, I mean, other people care about it. It's just not the stuff that like I like gets me motivated.
It's fine.
I don't really care.
Yeah,
it's fine. Your way, Jason. It's no problem.
Okay. Did you have any other? I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. Did you have any other topics?
I want to be able to close this plug for Apple thing I opened. Yeah. I know that you liked Matthew's comment, and he liked the idea of removing the plug for Apple. I don't know if Justin thought, I think, you know, aligns himself with Apple in certain ways, but I don't know if the whole project should.
I think you're reading in a lot more to that one phrase than I'm not aligned to Apple, and it's not a plug for Apple. I see it just as a metaphor. And again, they're getting the borderline bike shedding here, I don't really care as long as it's like in terms of writing. It's a writing tactic, right? Like people understand the benefits often of like integrated solutions. They theoretically should work better, and that's I want to reach for a writing metaphor to cement that in people's minds while they're reading through that. We can just remove it. I feel like do we risk alienating people who hate Apple versus the benefit of cementing the metaphor in their brain and making them understand it in kind of a different way? Because when you just say something like, "Hey, this is good," like that isn't the same as like, "Oh, it's like this," followed by metaphor. So I don't. My preference would be I'm fine removing it. I would just like put a challenge to whoever really wants to remove it, is just try to come up with like what's a similar thing outside of Apple that like people understand the benefits of like Legos and things like that aren't exactly the same. Like I would just try to brainstorm what is a similar metaphor then for where people really understand like, hey, these things are designed to work together, so they work better than something that's just like picking parts off the shelf, I guess.
Try not to use the word synergy in your...
How about Power Rangers? How the Power Rangers integrate into, what's that giant thing called? Power Rangers are coming back.
Ultron,
I think it's
or whatever. Yeah, I don't forget what it's called. It's not Ultron. It's something else.
Nice little reference that makes people reminisce and have hopefully good feelings about their childhood. Maybe that would be a more effective metaphor.
Yeah,
it's coming back. They made a new movie.
Yeah, I guess I would say like if you feel that the metaphor isn't, I would say try to come up with like a similar metaphor or whatever. And if you can't, and you still feel that like it's more alienating than it is putting it in people's minds, then I'm fine removing it.
Yeah, I think the main reason I did open the issue is because it's like the first thing you read. So I just didn't want people to be turned off if they, I know a lot of people, your metaphor makes sense to you, but I know to a lot of people, like they have a different opinion of Apple and everything. So, I mean, yeah, it's just the first thing you read when you jump in the
Well, it's an important, so it is also, the reason why it's so important is because it is DoneJS's biggest feature, is the breadth of the breadth of the feature set, and that all of these things that you could try to set this all up with like 5 or 6 different other projects, but it's not gonna work as just straightforward and simple as DoneJS provides it. That's a really important thing to convey for the strengths of DoneJS. So that's why,
I agree it's important to convey, but I'd also argue that the only people that would understand that particular metaphor anyways, like Apple and how they make what they do, is like people who already kind of understand what you're saying without the metaphor. So yeah, I think we just need a better metaphor, but I think you have a good point that for new people that are just trying to understand what this is, a metaphor is useful. So I'll just try and come up with something and I'll propose it, and then cool. Yeah, I won't spend too much time on it, but just wanted to get the issue closed so it's not just sitting there open.
Yeah,
that's it.
Good.
That's all for me.
Sweet. So Justin, I think you posted next about renaming can operate to can reflect.
Yeah. So, and I also wanted to talk about the can operate and can symbol stuff that I'm working on. So let me.
Cool. Sounds good.
Get my screen all going here. My mouse just ran out of battery, so I'm like gonna get carpal tunnel really bad now as I try to share my screen. Here we go. All right, so let's start with can symbol. Well, in some ways you want to start with can symbol and can operate. I don't know if anybody really knows the reflect APIs here, but I will also, I know these things exist, but in some ways I actually wish David would hop back on, because I know that some parts of Feathers uses the Reflect API.
Let me ping him real quick, see if he'll join us again.
You just join for like 2 seconds to tell me what I should rename this, because I'm just not familiar with reflect because I've not had an opportunity to use it. But from what I see, it seems a lot like what I'm trying to do with can operate. Okay, so there's two projects. There's can symbol and there's can operate. And what the purpose of them really is mostly for can operate. It's to give us the ability to manipulate or inspect objects that we don't really know, but we can still like perform actions on them, right? It's got a bunch of methods, so we could do looping, or we can do we can listen to when values change, or we can get. Did I forget the get and set stuff? Okay, we can read a value or write a value. We can add a whole bunch of keys, or insert items and things like that. We want these. We want to be able to do all of this stuff, but we don't really want to know what we're operating on. We just want it to work, right? So if I want to add a value to an object or to like a native ES map, I need to be able to do that. There's some parts of CanJS that need to be able to do that without really knowing what the underlying data type is. You can think of this as like Lodash, right? You might want to be able to use $ or _each in Lodash, but it should work if it's a set, if it's a map, if it's an array, if it's an object, or anything else people might give you. So the way that it works right now is basically what we can do, CanJS can do to any of these types, is we can just tack on a bunch of keys or symbols. So can symbol is a symbol polyfill, uses just normal symbols if it's there. But there's it also brings with it some well-defined symbols that CanJS will understand, such as like, where's set? Can set key value, which would be a symbol that points to a function that takes a key and a value and is supposed to set that key so that it could be then read with like get key value, right? So these things kind of work hand in hand. The nice thing is, like, can symbol, you could just decorate your object and you don't have to even import can operate, but it's this this relationship that they're kind of symbiotic, and they work together to provide anything using can operate the ability to use that object kind of on a hot, like, no matter what it looks like or how it works. So I realized that the Reflect API seems very similar to this. I didn't have a lot of time for investigation yet. I knew Reflect existed, but I hadn't like really looked at it. But it looks very, very similar to what I'm doing. Like there's a way to get a property key from this, and I was contemplating whether I should just be calling this can reflect and making it kind of a polyfill, but with more stuff on it, if you will. But then it's not really a polyfill. Anyways, it's just thoughts that I had. We'll see what happens. I don't know if anybody knows well enough about this, what Reflect's purpose is, if the renaming makes sense.
So I think the Reflect, wasn't it mainly added to get runtime information about decorators? So like you can at runtime tell what was added through decorators?
I don't know.
I know they use a Reflect a lot in TypeScript and in Angular too, to get information about how their classes have been decorated. So I think that kind of makes sense, but we should figure out if what you're proposing will work with the other decorator stuff that we've already talked about doing.
So what, in terms of decorators, I guess I don't understand what you, like, why does this, What is? I don't understand how. You'll have to teach me like how this relates to decorators.
Yeah, and I'm not an expert on it either,
Yeah.
but I my understanding was that was why it was added, or that's why it was proposed. The Reflect API was proposed.
But is it proposed for the same reason? Is just like these decorators are going to do strange and fun things to these objects, but you need something that can operate on those no matter what, you know, is going on underneath? Like,
Yeah, I think that's right. So you can figure out what is supported by the thing that you're, whatever the object is. So yeah, I think that makes sense.
like, are these supposed to look for symbols or something? Like what?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, it seems like the Reflect API is similar to what you have with can operate, in that it's supposed to be all of the, like all of those methods that might have otherwise been on the object or array or whatever other prototypes. It's supposed to just be a separate object to be able to take in whatever objects and
yeah, that's, I mean, I guess I'll have to do some more. I didn't find, I spent like, you know, 5 minutes and I just didn't find like the purpose for all of this, why it was originally designed. And it seems so structurally similar to what I was doing that something I got to look into, I guess.
Yeah, I think you're right though. I think your idea about that, what your goals for can operate are similar to what the Reflect API is supposed to be.
Maybe the only difference is I don't see how the Reflect API like.
I think it's more generic than what you're saying. Because it's not just symbols. It's really just any kind of metadata about the thing you're looking at.
Yeah, but it doesn't look like it's using well-known symbols itself. It just returns true or false if it was like possible to do. I don't know. I'll look into it. Anyways, so this is going to be one of the big changes I think for CanJS 3.6 is to get this in. It'll actually make a lot of parts of CanJS just far easier to write, because we've just started dealing with like maps and sets and key for event streams and just who knows what else that we want to integrate with. The nice thing is, I mean, it's a little bit to put out on people, but we can have like a kefir or whatever, key for event stream, and it's basically imports kefir and just sets all of these things up on it so that they're the right, you know. So then that's all you need to do, and then it's completely integrated into the rest of CanJS. So I'm looking forward to this a lot.
So Adam gave some explanation. I'm trying to get him to join. Maybe not. We can table it for another time.
Okay. Cool.
Okay. That was the only topic that you posted, I think?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, cool. And then Kevin Dillon had posted about FunkUnit. He's not here today and asked us to table our discussion, so he could be a part of the conversation. I think those were all of the topics. So does anyone else have anything before we go?
Nope.
All right. Thanks, guys, for being here today. Everyone who's watching this on the live stream, thanks for watching, or on YouTube afterwards. And see you guys next week.
Thanks.
Bye.
See you,
Bye.
Jason.